Welcome to The Pack, your gateway to the world of Patricia Briggs and the Mercyverse, where shifters, vamps, and fae rule. Magic hums just beneath the surface, and danger is always one heartbeat away. Now, let's run with the pack. Here are your hosts.
Hi, everybody. My name is Greg Martin, and I am excited about this brand new project that we have going on here. Along with my co-hosts Linda and Hasna, we are going to be talking about the Mercyverse. Say hi, Linda.
Hi, Linda.
There you go. Hasna, say hello, Hasna.
Hello, Hasna.
We are excited about this brand new project. It's the Pack Podcast, and I've been chasing Patricia Briggs for a long time now about the idea of doing this podcast about the Mercyverse and all of her books. And if you are not a fan of the books, you will be by the time you get done listening to the podcast. I have to put it out there up front. I have not read all of the books yet. I believe I am reading right now the next to last Mercy, The Soul Taken, and I think I've only read Cry Wolf of the Alpha and the Omega. That's the reason why I have Linda and Hasna with me, because have you guys read everything that Patty's ever written?
Yes.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. Yes, we've read everything.
You've read everything. All
Yes.
right.
Multiple times.
Multiple times. And we can ask that same question of Patricia. If she's read everything she's written multiple times.
No.
No.
Yes, of course.
See, there's a little spoiler alert. Who our first guest is going to be on the show for the day today. I'm a longtime broadcaster. I'm a radio guy from way back when. I'm also a fan of great fiction, and some of my favorite things that I love to read are mysteries. I'm a big fan of the Perry Mason series of books. And I think the very first book that I ever bought for myself was probably would have to be The Hound of the Baskervilles. And that's where my heart lies, is a good mystery. And I think that's one of the things that Patty does well, is she puts on a good mystery. Hasna, how about you? What's the first book that you ever read?
The first real big book, I was really nervous. And my teacher at the time, Mr. Maxwell, which I'm very grateful for, basically suggested to me to read The Never-Ending Story. And I think I was about 8 or 9. And for an 8 and 9-year-old, it was a huge book. It was like close to 300, 400 pages, I think. I can't read this. And every once a week, he would do like a reading hour. He would play classical music. He was a bit of a clown. And we played classical music, and we would read a book. So I would read basically children's books, but he said, just try it. I ended up inhaling that book for about a week or two, and I think that was the book that gave me the love of fantasy, and I've never looked back since. And then I became a huge fantasy reader, and then I discovered Tamora Pierce. I love Tamora Pierce. Alana, that was like the coming of age book, very influential, and it gave me the love of epic fantasy. And then I turned to romance, paranormal romance, urban fantasy, epic fantasy romance. I'm so glad that fantasy romance has just become a huge thing right now. Science fiction romance. Although I can't read hard sci-fi, I tried to read Kim and Stanley Robinson, Red Mars. It left my mouth dry. When you read the hard sci-fi elements was just too much for me. So I do love reading like the Expanse series, and I'm a huge sci-fi nerd, like Farscape, X-Files, Star Trek, Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, things like that.
So
Huge fan.
it was the Never-Ending Story that started the Never-Ending Story.
Yeah, literally that. It's such a fantastic book because it had so many themes of growing up, discovering imagination. Is the book is about imagination and exploring that and the darkness and the themes of light and darkness, good and evil, and growing up. And such a good book. The movies did not do it justice. I remember watching the movie. Like, is
I'll
that
never
it?
forgive them for killing the horse.
Yes.
So
Spoiler alert.
Oh, that was heart
Linda.
wrenching.
Yeah,
Yes,
Linda,
Greg.
how about you? And where did you start your literary journey?
See, now this is funny because I have a horrible memory, apparently, and I'm not going to spout off all these books like Hasna because I can't remember really what I started reading with. But I do remember I had the whole Hardy Boy series when I was younger. I love a good mystery as well, if you can call it that.
Yeah, in fact, I have the whole series myself, and I still today I will sit down and read a Hardy Boys or Nancy Drew.
Yeah, but I'm basically going to school. You just go into the library and you just grab everything you could see, and I was the worst with returning library books. I would have fines. So
Oh, I know that feeling. Sorry.
Do you still have books out that you need to return?
yes, I have one that's never that's never going to be. It's the Scarlet Pimpernel, Baroness
oh, I love
Okazee.
that one.
Yes, yeah. I was basically, I believe, the only person who ever checked it out of the library, and I read it so many times. I was like, okay, unfortunately, I'm sorry, the librarians of my hometown, but perhaps I just never returned it. And it's sitting on my bookshelf.
I like the way you said that. Perhaps I never returned it. Therefore, it's
Yes.
not committing guilt.
Yes. Yeah. For legal reasons, I did perhaps not return it.
There's an interesting twist with the Scarlet Pimpernel that I don't know if anybody's thought about this. The Scarlet Pimpernel was kind of the beginning of the anti-hero, the Batman kind of, and those
trope,
of you
yeah.
that don't know that I'm a massive fan of the Green Hornet and the Green
No,
Hornet.
tell me it isn't so, Greg.
Oh yes, I'm sorry.
Don't apologize. It's awesome.
The Scarlet Pimpernel was kind of the beginning of that masked vigilante kind of character, which leads into all of these other characters that, even Patty's writing about her, sometimes, kind of masked vigilante kind of things. So that's awesome. That's awesome, Linda. And, if they want the book back, they can come find you, right?
Sure.
Sure.
That's a no. That's a no.
Yeah. What book? I'm sorry. What book are we talking about?
Yeah, that's the one. So the Pack Podcast, we've been talking about this for a long time, about putting this show together for you, the fans. And we knew that right up front, we wanted to talk to the gal that started this whole thing. And so without further ado, she's already further adoed herself onto the show. Ladies and gentlemen, Patricia Briggs. Hi, Patty.
Hi, everybody. Oh, I've got to do it right? Hi, Patty.
Yes.
There you
Hi,
go.
Patty. There you go. So I will ask the first question because I've got the biggest microphone.
Brag.
No comment.
No comment. Thank you. Thank you. Where did the love of writing come from for you, Patricia?
I think twofold. One, I've always been a reader. Like you all, I've always read. I get to answer the question too, right? My first adult book was The Ivy Tree by Mary Stewart.
Yeah.
And my first science fiction was Beastmaster by Andre Norton. And my first fantasy was Year of Unicorn by Andre Norton. But books were just all over in my house. My mother was a librarian. In fact, she was my elementary school librarian. And reading was very important. We'd gather together in the evenings and read all the time. My sister would read from this giant book of Grimm's fairy tales, Reader's Digest version of a collection of fairy tales, which was humongous. And every night she would pick out a story and I'd pick out a story and she'd read it to me from the time I was about 3 or 4 on. So it was always a thing. Growing up, when I was young, it wasn't, I drew, I did not write. My sister was the writer. I drew. It wasn't until I was in high school that I started making my own stories. But the love of story was just, oh, I did say there was two. So I'm going to step back and say the other place my love of story came from was that I grew up in this little old mining town called Butte, Montana. That was, boy, it's a very strange town. In the 1920s, it was over 100,000 people. People like Carrie Nation, the temperance lady, Teddy Roosevelt went there. It was huge, and it was wild, and it was crazy, and it was the third city in the world to be electrified after Paris and New York, before London.
Wow.
Butte was electrified because that's where they got the copper for the copper wires for electrification. And when I grew up there, it was a town of about 30,000 people who were kind of rattling around in a town built for a lot more people. And the people that were left were all storytellers. It's sort of like Chicago, which is not really a melting pot. The Irish are still Irish, the Cornish are still Cornish. I had friends who were Finnish. I have friends who identified as Italian, and all of them are storytellers. And so I just grew up with it. We would gather together on holidays, and my brother-in-law, who's from an old Italian mining family, that sounds odd, but they were there, because you don't think of Italians and mines going together, but they did. He and his father would tell these fabulous stories about Butte in its heyday. Just really awesome, wild characters, wild stories that I found out later were true. And the two just blended. And to me, I think words and stories are one of the most powerful ways that we have as humans to organize our world and to make it make sense.
It was a dark and stormy night. And you can go from
Yes.
there. You're right. You're exactly right.
It's funny, you can really see that those eclectic characters kind of reflected in your writing when you're like talking about, the Butte and growing up in that kind of situation. So you just kind of see some of that show up.
See, I'm removing the mystery.
I know, right?
But I figure, I had so much fun with those characters. I figured you guys would too.
I love it. I love the characters. It's just so vibrant and colourful and just memorable.
One of the questions that I had jotted down for myself, because I'm also a writer of ill repute, and the word pantser has been tossed around about you, Patricia Briggs.
Yeah. Yes.
And I'd like you to describe what that means for our fan base here.
So I have used the word pantser for my writing style for many, many years, and it never quite fit right.
Mm-hmm.
I was at a Dragon Con with Jane Yolen, and she called it Into the Mist. And that's a much better examination of how I write. And that's that I know the big things. I know big things that are books down. I knew that I was going to destroy the cable bridge when I started Moon Called. And it took me till Fire Touch, which is many books down the line, before I did it. I knew about Ben when he walked on stage in Moon Called, and I didn't know that I was ever going to tell readers about Ben's background. But I always, when I write these characters, they have to have an internal logical consistency. So I have backstories on all of my characters that are pretty involved, and they get deeper the further I go. And then when there was the right scene to throw him in there, I had him to put in. And so Into the Mist fits it way better than Pantser. But I certainly am not an outliner. I have written one book on outline. It's because I had to sell it on an outline. And once I wrote the outline, it took me way longer to write the book because I already knew the ending. That's what drives me to write the story, is because I want to find out what happened too. And if I know already what happened, I have absolutely no motivation to write this story.
What book was that?
Okay, you're going to put me on the spot. I should have all my books in front of me so I can remember titles because I am terrible that way. Let's see.
You know,
It
on the
was.
Patricia Briggs on patriciabriggs.com, there is a list of all of
I
your
know I
books,
should go to it.
just
Right?
in
Let me
case.
see.
If you're looking for a list of your books, www.patriciabriggs.com.
You know, oddly enough, I have a book sitting here. I have Blind Date with a Werewolf in the ARC, which I haven't seen an ARC in a long time. This is the first ARC I've gotten since before COVID, I think. And it is Raven Strike. It was the second of the two Raven books. And before that, I always sold the books after I'd written them. So I sent her Raven Shadow and just told her told her my editor, Ann Sowards at Penguin, and told her that I had a follow-up book that I was going to write for it. And she said, okay, tell me what it's about and I'll give you a contract. And that really surprised me. So I had to do an outline. And jeepers, I sweated blood. I have written books in a shorter time that took me to write the outline. And at the end of the outline, I put a paragraph that said, and if the book actually follows this outline, it's going to be terrible. So let's all hope that it doesn't do that. True story.
I like it. Honesty in writing. Not a pantser. Follow a mister.
Into the mist.
Into the mist. I like that idea.
I think when you are starting a book, you like to listen to your audiobooks up to that point to kind of give you jump off points with a new with a new book that you're going to be working on.
Yes. I have been writing Mercy for something like 20 years at this point. Because I was working on it before it came out, and I think it's like 19 years ago that Mooncalled came out.
Yeah, I think it was 2006.
And I don't know about you, but that's a lot of things to keep in your head. So, and I do a lot of driving, so I listen to the audiobooks, and in some ways it's a very painful hair shirt way to go because I will be listening to them going, oh, I can't believe I left that wording in. Oh, that's just terrible. That sounds awful. What was I doing? And then sometimes some decisions I made 20 years ago, I go, what was I thinking? Why would I do that to myself? Why would I hamstring myself like that? It's just a casual remark. Surely no one will remember, but everybody does. So yeah, listening to the audiobooks before I start the book really helps me. It also helps me remember those little bits that I've thrown in that were kind of off comments that tell readers that the world is greater and that some things are going to happen. And, the things that are into the mist, sometimes I forget what I'm aiming at too. So it helps me go back and go, oh, that is a story thread that I didn't do anything with that would be really fun to bring in here. It makes people think I plan what I'm doing.
Because I know, because you're working on Alpha and Omega number 7 right now.
Yes.
Yeah. So the book that's coming out in October, Blind Date with a Werewolf, it's such a different format. Was it hard to kind of drop that and get back into Alpha and Omega style?
No, actually, no. It was refreshing. One of the reasons I have 2 series going is because otherwise it would feel like I was writing the same book for 20 years. Right? Same characters, same world. When I switch it back and forth from a single protagonist, Mercy, to a dual protagonist, Anna and Charles, that helps. And first person to third person, that helps too. And the Blind Date with a Werewolf was just like candy. I had so much fun with these. For those of you who aren't aware, this is a weird format. It is, in some ways, you would say it's 3 short stories and 2 novellas. Or you could say, as Penguin and we decided to say, it's a novel in stories, because it's all one story broken up into 5 chunks. And 3 of those were previously published, but I've revamped them and kind of rewritten them so they all work together a little bit better and expanded because I can. When you have somebody who says, we need a 10,000 word story, and you turn in an 18,000 word story, they make you revamp it down to 10,000 words because that's how many pages they have for you. Mm-hmm. So those pages get put back in. And because because of that, the story works differently than it does than it does in the regular novels. The storylines are a bit more scattered and then collected together, and it was a challenge and it was fun. And Asil is always a fun character to play with anyway. I really enjoy his arrogant, but not arrogant, maybe hyper competent, and he knows that he's hyper competent. I don't know how to put it, but he's really a fun.
He's very self-assured.
There we go. He's very
He's,
self-assured.
yeah,
Yes.
self-assured.
Yeah, yes, and he's happy to tell everybody how self-assured he is. And he's right, which makes it worse. And I love playing with him, and I love him throwing his old-fashioned and very self-assured self at a world that is not used to people who are that self-assured. And it's a lot of fun. So coming back from that, it's sort of like taking a cleanser and then getting back into the meat of things. And every time when I switch characters, switch books, switch characters. So from Alpha and Omega to Mercy and back, it's always it feels like a steep climb for the first like 10 or 20 pages. Then I get back in their heads and we have a good time. So the answer is it actually helped, I think, rather than hurt.
That's good.
It's interesting. I know you're friends with Jim Butcher, and I love to read Jim's books, but it always feels to me, and this is not necessarily a bad thing, it always feels to me that every Dresden book is bigger. It has to be bigger, and a lot of sci-fi, I think, goes in that direction too. The next, it has to be, it's not just the world that's ending now, it's the galaxy is ending, or it's the universe that's ending. Do you ever feel that you're trying to top yourself?
I avoid that. And the reason I avoid it is because I don't want it in to come to the series. And I've always enjoyed playing the small side of the story. The first books I wrote were, Masks and Still the Dragon and When Demons Walk. Those were all like micro stories on an epic fantasy. So there was an epic fantasy going on in the background of all these micro stories going on. And I just find dealing with stories on that level is more interesting to me. I don't, when you have mighty battles and mighty wars going on, I feel like I can't keep track of the character journey, which is the most important part to me. And Jim does a fabulous job at it. He's got one book that is essentially a single battle, and it's fabulous, just fabulous. But I can't do that. So, admit your strengths and weaknesses. That's something that I don't feel capable of organizing. But he does.
And I think
Go ahead.
And I think Jim has a plan. Like I read that he's going to end the series with 3 big books. So he's building up to that. So it's like a crescendo where he's leading up to something big, huge to end the series.
Well, I hope you're wrong because I don't want to see the end of Harry. But I know that initially the story was supposed to end with changes, and he kept going with it, which was fabulous. I know he plans ahead. I know he planned the whole series, although I don't think he planned as many books in the series from the first book to the last book as ended up being there. Some of the stories took off for him. But whatever Jim writes, I'll read. He's just such a fabulous storyteller, and his characters are wonderful. And Harry is just like this big goofy doofus who is a fabulous human being, a good person, and incredibly powerful, especially as the story goes up. I actively try to keep my power journey lower. I mean, I have characters in the story that are very, very powerful, but the main characters I try to keep at a level in which I don't have to do backflips in order to put them in jeopardy. I don't want to do the Superman syndrome, where the only thing Superman is vulnerable to is kryptonite, and that means kryptonite has to come in all your stories. So I don't like doing that. I don't, and I know authors. Alona Andrews, fabulous at really powerful characters. Jim is fabulous at powerful characters. Laurel K. Hamilton is fabulous at powerful characters, but that's not where my storytelling skills are. I like underpowered characters, and so I am taking this in a way longer sweep than we talked about.
I like that because J. Mike Straczynski, who is the writer of Babylon 5, had one episode that it had all the characters in it. It had all the main characters in the show, but it was about the two guys the repair guys, the fix guys.
I remember that episode, and it's through their eyes, yeah, where they were like, "Oh, this is happening," and like in the background, like everything was going on, and then it was a really interesting perspective where they were experiencing everything that was going on during that time. Yeah.
And I get that feeling off of the different characters that you've pulled in, Patty. It's just this wonderful. It's a family that we all know. We all know and love all those characters.
And there's lots of characters. I sat down one time and going, why can't I come up with a name I haven't used? And I looked at the sheets and sheets of names of characters who had bit parts and walk-ins, and I'm going, oh, that's why I can't come up. At one point in time, I think about the third or fourth book in, I said, I can't have any more characters whose names start with A, B, or C. Anna Brand Charles. I can't do any more A, B, C. But I had to throw that away too, because I just have there's just, these books have been going on for a long time, and there are a lot of books out there. And when I stack them all together, they take up more than one bookshelf, you know. And so, yeah, I just, I don't know where I was going with that, so I'll stop. Sorry.
I was gonna say, like, I remember the Karas. I think you had 3 different Karas.
Yes,
from the
three Karas, and I wrote 2 short stories, and the main character in both short stories' first name was Tom. And I wrote them at the same time, and it wasn't until I finished both stories I realized that was the case. And I tried to change Thomas Howe's name, and it wouldn't work. The whole story quit working when I changed his name. And I just shrugged, and I go, okay, you're Thomas, he's Tom, and we're going to go on with that. So, you know, and Kara, Anna's upstairs neighbor in Alpha and Omega, in the first novella for Alpha and Omega, her name was, she came on as a Kara, and I couldn't change her name either. Well, of course, it was published by the time I got Kara from that was in the 3rd Mercy book, I think, right? Iron Kissed is where Kara comes in. Bloodbound, so the 2nd book. Yeah. So I had, did I write that? I don't even remember. I wrote them right around the same names, same time. So Kara must have been in my head. And then I have a lone wolf Kara, the only female lone wolf that anybody knows about, whose name is also Kara. And all I can do is go, I know, like when I went on a book signing tour one time and sat at a table with my fellow writer who was coming with the books on the tour with me, my trusty assistant who came on the tour with me, and my editor, I looked around and said, I feel like I'm in a Sesame Street skit. One of these things just doesn't belong here, because I'm sitting at the table with Anne, and Anne. And it's me, right? So my editor is Ann Sowards, my trusty assistant is Ann Peters, and then I was traveling with Ann Bishop. So, you know, it happens in real life. So that's all I can say. I'm just mimicking real life.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. And I don't think that's a bad thing. So the podcast is the Pack Podcast, and this is the kind of conversations that we are going to be having. Sadly, Patty is not going to be joining us every podcast because she gets off topic and she runs downhill sometimes. And,
oh, you think?
And sometimes she carries sharp objects. I'm not sure. I've been in your office. I know what your staircase is like. Come on, you got to be careful going up and down that thing.
That's true.
That is true. So this is the way the podcast is going to go. We would love to have you, the listener, be a part of this and send us questions. We are in the process of setting up all the infrastructure to be able to do that. Linda's doing a great job behind the scenes. Hasna is keeping us on the straight and narrow. And we're excited about where things are going with the Pack Podcast. We're also hoping to be able to bring you, the listener, in with a Patreon account. And we're working on a couple of different levels and some fun things for you right now to get involved and be a part of the whole Pack Podcast. And from time to time, we might invite Patty back to be on the show.
We'd love to have her.
Yeah.
Not
She's
gonna
being
lie.
really...
Nobody else has to say a word.
And we like it that way. We like it that way.
I am a novelist, not a short story writer. That's all I have to say.
There you go. And I'm a short story writer that keeps talking too, so it's okay.
I'm just a reader.
Yeah.
No. I am a reader. No, just.
I am a reader.
I am a
I am a
reader.
reader.
Me too. I'm a reader too.
I think I'm in over my head with this podcast. I'm not quite sure.
Didn't know what you were getting yourself into, huh,
I
Greg?
had no idea what I was getting myself into, but I'm excited about it. I think you, the listener, should be very excited about it too. We have so many fun
Welcome
things
to the dark
planned.
side.
Welcome to the dark side. I love it.
Or more like the bark side.
The bark side.
The bark side. All right, it's the Pack Podcast, and we'll be back again next month with Hasna and Linda, and we're going to turn Linda's microphone up just a little bit because you're kind of quiet back in the background there, Linda.
That's what I do. I'm a background character.
She's a background
And I love it that
character.
way.
She makes everything work.
She does, and she just rolled out of bed too, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
And I'm here.
But she's here.
But she had her tea. She made sure she had her tea.
Yes. I need some caffeine and I'm raring to go.
There you
I
go.
take my caffeine cold.
It is the Pack Podcast, and we will be back again next month. And I don't know if you noticed that our premiere, the Pack Podcast premiere, is here on the 9th day of August, which is the full Sturgis moon. All right, the Pack Podcast. Thanks for joining us. We will see you again next month.
Bye, all.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
The shadows are stirring, and our time together has drawn to a close, at least for now. But the Pack is never far away. When the moon rises again, we'll be here waiting. Thanks for running with the Pack. The Pack Podcast is a Grail Productions show. Copyright 2025, Hurog Incorporated. All rights reserved.